Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show. Wake up to love, your call to action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. It is a very, very important time on planet Earth right now. My goodness, it's getting hot in here. That's how I'm feeling, that everything is heating up. I don't know if it's because we have so many planets in Aries or if it's just what's happening on the world stage. But certainly, I'm sure it's all contributing to it. So it is the most holy week that we're in. We are in the Holy Week, the most holy week. And here we are. It is Tuesday, April the 4th, 2023. And I'm here with my beautiful soul family, Pia and Cullen. And we're here to share our good energy with you, to talk to you about how to navigate these uncertain times and how to be the peace anchors that we must be right now, because we're really being called to anchor our peace, to be responsible with our energy. And how do we do that? In being surrounded by so much chaos, being surrounded by so much negativity, how do we do that, right? So, every time when we come on this show, I always sit down and make a list of things I want to talk about. Today, we want to address how to change our perspective. And I got this from Pia's report. It's a 3-minute read that you all should sign up for, because she always puts out this wonderful conscious information that helps us in these times. So how to go from fear and selfishness and ignorance to kindness, compassion, and love. And how do we do that right now in these times? And I want to talk about spiritual attacks. When we shine our light really bright, when we put our energy out there, definitely you have to realize that there is going to be attacks that are going to want to attack you personally. And I've personally experienced this myself many, 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 many times. And just as most especially in this past week. And again, how do we anchor peace during this time? And how strong do we have to be in the midst of evil surrounding us, right? So we want to talk about these things because it's real. This is real. And I want to talk about the next 3 months. I want to talk about the next 3 years. And I want to talk about what Colin wants to talk about, and that is spiritual contracts or contracts. They wrote an article that has been accepted now. Where did you say it was accepted, published?
It's already published in Sedona Journal in America. It is soon to be published in Australia and New Zealand, and it's going to be published in the UK in Watkins Magazine. So it's going to be published in 3 places. It's going to be global.
Good.
But
And
this is a preview that you can take a look at before you see the publications that's on our website.
yeah, I personally have read the article. So Colin, would you like to start out? And so that we're not going to, we're just going to give you the space right now to talk about this article, to talk about why this is important, and go ahead and let us know.
Can I just say something first before you do that I think will fit with what you're talking about?
Sure.
So, Cornelia, one of the things you wanted to talk about was perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in the period of healing energy right now for the next, well, it started yesterday, 13 days of healing energy. And we have so much on the planet, in our bodies, in our minds, in our emotions. There's so much healing that needs to be done. And changing our perspective is going to take us into the healing we need to do. And one of the greatest avenues for changing our perspective is reconsidering our contracts. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent
Well,
setup.
we decided that because so many people worldwide talk about what is my contract? What is my mission here? What is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I supposed to fulfill? What am I supposed to achieve? And we truly hear this from people worldwide on a regular basis. And one day we were having a conversation with someone, and the idea of reviewing and rewriting our contracts came up. And it ended up being a lengthy talk that we absolutely enjoyed and explored for hours. And what we came up with was, we think it's time to write an article about simply reviewing and rewriting our contracts, because of course we've all made contracts before we came here. We decided what we wanted to accomplish, what our gifts and talents would be, what we would be able to do here, whether that would be towards peace or healing or reconciliation or forgiveness. There are so many different aspects of what we came here to accomplish. And as you said, Kornelia, just a moment ago, this is an absolutely chaotic time. There is so much adversity. There is so much energy, both, and this will sound funny, I think, for me to say it out loud, good and bad energies. Everything is really neutral. We can't really judge whether something that comes to us is good or bad. We can simply have a feeling, do we align with this energy? Do we resonate with this energy? So I think saying good or bad probably isn't accurate at this point. But at the same time, we were different energies when we wrote these contracts. We were in a different realm. We were in a different reality. We were in a different dimension when we wrote these contracts or these missions that we were to achieve here. And it occurred to Pia and me while we were talking to a group of friends, well, maybe it's time to rewrite that, because so much has changed from when we came here. There were certain guidelines, there were certain ideas that we were told before we arrived that we would be confronting, or we would be working with, or we would be working around. And those energies have all changed. Nothing is the same as it was when we made these agreements. So we came up with the idea of, let's look at why we came. If it still fits, let's continue to work with that. Let's use our toolbox of information, skills, talents. Let's do something with that in the way that we had anticipated. And I underline and repeat, anticipated what we would come up against being here on this plane of existence on planet Earth. It's no longer the same planet Earth.
The perspective aspect of this is that most people, when they say, well, it's my contract, have the belief system that if it's their contract, they can't break it. And that's the piece of perspective that we addressed in the article. Who says we can't break it? As Cullen just said, we are not the same people that we were when those contracts were written. So who says we can't break a contract if it's no longer valid and no longer fits who we have become? So changing perspective about who we are and why we're here is a large part of what Lartma calls healing the human condition.
So I think it's probably appropriate to say, maybe we don't need to break the contracts. Maybe we need to just amend the contracts. Maybe we just need to tweak them or bring them forward to what matches what's actually happening here at this time. Because we can't cling to what we said we would do when the circumstances have changed. It's not possible. It just won't work. So we decided that maybe it's time to relook at what needs to be accomplished here. Is the work we need to do towards peace the same as it was when we first arrived? The answer simply is no. It's a different ballgame. It's a different situation. Is the situation around unity consciousness the same as it was when we arrived? Absolutely not. So I could go on and on about this, and I won't, because we don't have the time. We have so many subjects to talk about and share. But I think it's perfectly okay and appropriate to review and change our contracts so that we're doing the work that fits the energies that are here now, not when we came here.
So I just want to let the audience know I'm going to be putting the article link that Colin and Pia are talking about in the YouTube description. So it'll be there for you. Grab that link and go check it out. But I do have a question for you, Colin, that I think would be helpful for the audience, for myself included, because it's actually bringing back something that I referenced to a few months back, which it's showing itself to me right now in this dialogue, and that is the question to you is: can you give us an example besides the examples that you've already given on a personal level? Like, let's just say your contract was before you came here to do such and such, and now it's changing. So, could you give us an example of a person that's listening to this? Maybe their contract was so and so, and now it's different. So, could you talk? Give us an example.
Sure, it's easy. I
Good.
can use a personal. I don't mean my personal example, but a personal universal example.
Mm.
I think many of us came here with an agreement or a contract to find a person that we were supposed to connect with. Let's say a karmic link. And if we were successful at connecting with that person, let's say we started a relationship, it moved into a permanent relationship, it moved into a marriage. People look at marriages as an absolute moral contract in this society we live in. Well, the change that P and I are proposing is we're told you cannot break a marital contract. That is socially unacceptable. When we make vows with another, we say, until death do us part. I think if we take this personally, I can use this as an example to help listeners understand what I'm trying to explain. It's perfectly okay once we have gained what we needed being with a certain person. If we have grown, if we have expanded, if we have evolved, and yet we've come to a standstill because both partners are no longer on the same beam of, let's say, energy or light, and it's time for one or both of those people to look at each other and say, well, guess what? We learned what we needed to learn from each other, and it's time to move on. It's time to change who we are and how we do what we do together. Is that a clear example of what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's a good example. I can actually see that this would be another wonderful discussion, talking about marital contracts in different situations. Business contracts, marital contracts. You mentioned earlier mission. We came here for a mission. And what many star seeds light workers came here with a mission, to complete something, to do something. And we know that the world is an inside job. We know that the world is an inside job. So if you have completed that inside job, that mission, right? This is how I'm perceiving what you're saying. Is that true? So once
Yes.
you've completed that and this is where it comes in for me, because I think I talked about this a few months back, where we came here to, when we've completed what we came here to do, and now there, I was sitting waiting for my next level of expression. How do I want to move forward next? What do I want to do next? Because I feel like I completed what I came here to do inside of my physical body, inside of my consciousness, inside of my beingness. And now, how do I want to move forward now? Because I don't want to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, because we've been doing that, and that's not serving anyone, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Cornelia, I think Cullen and I are a little ahead of the game on this, because when we were spiritually wed, we understood the concept that death to us part is not what it's all about. And we instituted a policy in our marriage that can be applied to just what we're talking about now, the inside job, the mission, all of it. We look at each other every day and say, I choose you. And either, we make a conscious choice that we are in this relationship for a reason and that we choose to be here. And the same thing applies to your mission contract, any other contract you've got. Examine it, look at your perspective, give up on the idea that you're locked into it, because you're not, and change what needs to be changed and stay with what's still working.
Yeah.
And what you said, Kornelia, just a moment ago before Pia spoke, when we're finished with something, it's perfectly okay to begin a new contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you were saying precisely. If we've maintained something that we came here to achieve, we were successful, or even on the other hand, if we weren't successful, it's okay. But we have to be at that point where we look at ourselves deeply and say, okay, I did what I wanted to do, or I did as much as I wanted to do. However, I wasn't met with the energies that would allow me to complete this in the storybook fashion of everything happened happily ever after. Then we do exactly what you just proposed. We start a new contract, and it doesn't matter what that means. It simply means we move to the next step. And that's exactly how you just described that.
Because that was my experience. That is my experience. That is how I feel about it. I don't feel that what I had set out to do in this last decade was met, in a lot of ways. I mean, I know that, we created a lot of momentum. It's personal. It's personal for me on that level. So, and in that realm, and that's fine. I don't have to get anyone else's approval or authority, because I already have it. It's here within. So that's really the place that we want to be, right? And I just want to let the audience know too. I recently did a series, and this is just being released now, one at a time, and that's on my YouTube channel. You can get it there, and that's Living Beyond the Core Wounds of Our Human Condition. And what are the core wounds? So the core wounds of betrayal, abandonment, shame, victim consciousness, separation from source, living beyond those core wounds, living beyond that trauma, so that we can really now live and be who it is, remembering who it is that we are. In Pia and Cullen's book, that that if you don't have this book, you need to get it. You need to get it, because it's such a great book, and it will really help you it'll activate you, and you can use it as a workbook, but also as a journal to help you journal your own experience. So the point I'm making here is, with all of this, is if you want to start living beyond the condition that you were born into, and this fits right along with the contract, is check out that playlist on my YouTube channel, and Living Beyond the Core Wounds. Every week I release a new core wound and the opposite of it. So right now I just released the introduction of it, and then the first core wound of feeling not good enough, not worthy, which is, of course, a lie, but that was a core wound that many have been born into. And to come from the opposite, and that is, I am worthy. I am worthy. You are worthy, because you have cleared that core wound of I'm not feeling good enough, I'm not worthy, to I am worthy. So that's one of the core wounds. But every single person here is capable and able of transcending these core wounds and changing, like you all said, the contract of what it is that you came here to do, living beyond it. And so, I mean, this is why I'm saying these next 3 years is we're going to look back, even when we look back right now to 2020, January 2020, right? When Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn conjunction took place, and look at where we are today. I mean, these last 3 years have been extraordinary in so many ways. And the next 3 years are going to be exactly that. We're not going to recognize each other. My wish and my dream and my hope for all of that is that everyone sees their magnificence. Everyone sees how amazing you are, how important your light is, that you came here for this, and that we've got this, that we can do this, which is going to take us right now to our next topic of discussion, and that is a change in perspective. Pia, in your latest P report, which people can find on your website, right? Is it on your website? Because it's also on your newsletter that comes out.
It's on both websites, piaorleane.com and larkma.com. It's up on both places for people to find it.
So you talked about how important it is right now to change our perspective. Are we coming from a place of fear, separation, selfishness, and ignorance? Is that where we're living and acting from?
Well, I'd like to add one to it, and that is limitation. Are we coming from a place of feeling limited? Because the whole thing we've been discussing about contracts is feeling like we're limited to what we can do and who we are. And the whole thing about changing perspective is not just about getting out of fear, which is exceedingly important, but it's also about examining the belief systems thoroughly. Look at what you believe to be true and ask, is there another way to see this? Is there something else I need to look at from a different angle, a different way of seeing the world, the situation, the relationship, myself? Those are questions that we haven't asked very well because we always fall back into our belief systems based on our experience. And experience is based on the past. We are becoming new and newer every moment. So the history and the experience of the past is not always relevant to the perspectives we are creating.
Exactly, because we came here to experience our magnificence embodied in the light and transcend the human condition, the fear, the ignorance, the selfishness that Pia talked about. And now is the perfect time to look at what's out of balance in yourself, in your life, and make that change. And that perfect question that you just asked, Pia, uh, how can I look at this differently? What am I not seeing? What do I need to see about this? What has been hidden from myself? What have I hidden from myself? Right? Asking
Yes.
those questions will really help. And it will take us there to the place of offering kindness, compassion, and love. And to begin, it starts with you. It starts with you, right? Go ahead.
Well, that's a really, truly important point. If we look at it microcosmically, it does start with us. And then if we expand that macrocosmically out, further out, it has to do with everyone else. So you are both right. We have to start it at home. It's an inner job that must be looked at first. But once we've achieved actually making changes in our lives from a perspective point of view, we need to bring that out into a macrocosmic arena and have it affect everyone else. So I think it's an inner and an outer that we have to balance. You talked about balance a moment ago. I think we have to balance that inner part first and then take it outwardly so it balances us continually as we go out with the idea or the notion of compassion, kindness, love, and unity. So I think it's a double energetic situation where we have to see it in both of those arenas at the same time.
And Cornelia, the secondary question in there also that helps people, because after you ask the question initially, how can I see this another way? What am I not seeing? A lot of times people feel like they've hit a wall, that, it's just, okay, I don't get it, or I can't see it, or where is it? I'm blocked. So the secondary question to ask is, am I being kind? Start there. Am I being kind? Is my tone kind when I speak to others? Am I choosing kind words when I speak to others? Are my thoughts about myself and who I am kind, or are they judgmental? Start with the question of, am I being kind? Because kindness is an open portal to being compassionate, and compassion leads to unconditional love.
I think this is so important what you said, am I being kind? Because I feel like, with what you said, Colin, and we know that it all starts at home. The world is an inside job, peace is an inside job, love is an inside job. It all begins there first. And this is so important because that is how we emit our frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So that if you go outside first, and it needs to happen to the inside first. Am I being kind to myself? Are my thoughts about myself kind? And if you start there, then already you have a beautiful inner peaceful garden, because now you are already vibrating at that frequency. And then take that and go out and extend that frequency out. Now offer your kindness to others because you've included the self. The self has been, in the old 3D world, in the Piscean age, has been left out of the equation. And that's the reason for that self-love, that deep self-love, that all that deep healing that we've had to do over these last many, 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 many years. And now, I think we're coming to a place where we are really ready to put on that armor as well and shine that light out in the midst of the evil and the chaos, because we've nurtured ourselves. We're nurturing ourselves. We're being kind to ourselves. We're being loving to ourselves. That is actually the most important relationship on planet Earth that you can have. And then take that relationship and the way that you relate with everyone else and everything else is going to blossom and flourish because of it.
That is absolutely true. We have unfortunately been trained through, I'll have to be careful here, but I'm going to say it out loud, through societal training, religious training, corporate training, advertising. It doesn't matter where it came from. We've been trained to take care of everyone else first. And then if there's an ounce of energy left, maybe we can do something kind for ourselves. So we're bucking as you said a moment ago, Kornelia, we're bucking a very old system. It's been going on for a very long time, of this bad training of always looking outward and trying to help everyone else before we help ourselves. And that is one of the worst pitfalls in the structure of our society, because if we don't do what you just suggested, be kind to ourselves, be nurturing to ourselves, take care of ourselves, we aren't going to be strong enough. We're not going to be powerful enough to broadcast that out and actually help others in the same way as if we have really strengthened ourselves and really taken care of ourselves first. That is something that needs to change in our societies around the world.
Because if you don't do that part first, you're going to be looking outside of yourself for that approval. You're going to be looking outside of yourself for that validation. You're going to be then projecting, I'm not, this isn't peaceful. It's this person, it's that person, it's this thing, it's that event. You mentioned this earlier, Colin. You used the word neutral. Truly every event out there is basically neutral. It is
Mhm.
only our response to it that that will fire, or it's how we react to that event, emotionally react to that event. And if we're triggered by an event, then that event is a perfect opportunity for you to take it in. What is it about that's triggering you about that event, and neutralize it yourself during that time, right?
Absolutely. And that brings us back to Pia's understanding of perspective, because we have to change the perspective in order not to do what you just described. It's a perfect circle. It really is a let's do it from this perspective instead of the old perspectives that we've used over and over again that obviously don't work.
The quote in the Bible. I wouldn't know where it is or who wrote it or what, but it just came to me, and that is, "Love thy neighbor as thyself." Right? That's what it says in the Bible, right? Love thy neighbor as thyself. The problem with that quote is, how do you love yourself? Have you
Yes.
included yourself? So love thy neighbor as thyself. Well, do you love yourself fully and wholly and completely, and then love thy neighbor as thyself? But truly, we see and know that there's a lot of people that have not begun that work of truly, truly loving the self, right?
If we saw evidence of that worldwide, there would be no war, there would be no poverty, there would only be equality and brotherhood and sisterhood.
So that is the mission, right? That's what we all came here for, to experience those type of communities. That kind of living is to be able to really see each other and collaborate with each other to co-create new ways of living and being. I think right now, during the first, like, I want to say the last 12, 13, 14 years, transcending the core wounds and releasing the traumas and letting go of all of the things that are untrue about what we've bought into, the lies and the limitations, like Pia said, and all of the things. Okay, so there is that. And now, we're in this next phase now. What will we do now once we've healed all of that? We've released some of the contracts, we've let go of some of the things. What will we do now with our energy? And that's what's coming up for a lot of us. What are we going to do now with our energy? And let's call in those communities that are ready to start building during the midst of the falling apart of everything that's falling apart, that's no longer sustaining. And then we are over here building and coming together with our perfect matches of people, whether it's partners, clients, whoever the community is, but coming together with our communities of light so that we can start building the new and
That's
not
called
project.
That's called parallel community, living parallel to the chaos that's going on. We perceive that it's going on all around us and we're in the middle of it, but we can sidestep that a little bit and move into a parallel space. And that's where the possibilities happen.
And astrologically, it really hasn't been possible
Mm-hmm.
until now. When you speak of the next 3 years, it hasn't been possible to create these communities because we haven't been mature enough. We haven't had the energies that would support creating these communities. And I think for the first time in human history, My gosh, people have tried to create spiritual communities forever, and it hasn't worked. There has been too much ego. There has been too much, I want to be in charge. I want to do it my way. I don't like your way. There's so many examples in intentional communities and in ashrams around the world that these experiments failed because we weren't ready to do exactly what the three of us have been talking about. We haven't been ready to truly look at our wounds. We haven't been ready to look at our shadows. We haven't been ready to really look at our traumas and get through them instead of just having them sit there inert and not doing something about them. I think the next 3 years in particular will be a springboard, an opportunity to create these communities we're describing. And I think for the very first time, they're actually going to work. I think they're going to come into fruition. And I think we're going to be much, much more successful at achieving this.
I'm open to it. I'm open to it. I'm totally open to it. I welcome it. And I totally agree with everything you said. We haven't been mature enough. And even in the spiritual communities, even in the truther communities, even in the communities where there's enlightened people or they think they are, and they're still projecting their emotional traumas or their emotional wounds onto other people and still not accepting responsibility for themselves. That if you're triggered by anything or anyone, it's
Yep.
always going to be something from your past that's coming up. Because if you're not neutral, doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. It's something from your past that's coming up so that you can heal it and that you can see it. And maybe your inner child is calling for attention, whatever it is. But I think that's been the biggest piece for me is, being around people that we're still projecting their own. They think they understand spiritually or consciously, but they're still projecting their wounding onto other people and not really taking on their own responsible mastery over this event or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh, we do know exactly what you
we
mean. We agree.
absolutely totally agree with you.
We see a lot of that on a daily basis with the projection. Projection is a major problem that people are blind to. They don't recognize that they're doing it. All they can see is through the lens or the filter of their own belief system and their own judgments. And that's where that question of, am I being kind, really comes in to help shift the perspective just a little bit.
Yeah. Astrologically, Pluto leaving Capricorn, which is happening at this very moment, the structures that we don't really like, that have been involved with control and limitation and all of the things that have kept us from really moving forward, are about to dissolve. And this is another part of why it hasn't to create these communities, because there was too much structural control to allow people to get together consciously and actually create what we're talking about. So as Capricorn completely, as Pluto completely leaves Capricorn between now and January of 2024, just not even a year from now, the possibility of creating new structures that will be egalitarian, that will be absolutely filled with unity consciousness, will spring up for the first time. As I said a moment ago, we're going to be catapulted into absolutely new areas of cooperation and new areas of collaboration in the next 2 to 3 years. And it's going to change the whole picture of how we create what we positively want to create, whether that's community, whether that's businesses, things that are designed for the highest good of all, which haven't been working very well for the past 15 to 16 years, actually will be in a position to blossom and bloom.
So, Cornelia, you said at the beginning of our talk today that this is a very chaotic time, and Cullen's addressing all the changes that we're going to see. And I would like to say we're going to be in the midst of chaos, but that is not a bad thing. All new things are born out of chaos. Order is born out of chaos. Chaos is the starting point. So we have to start with looking at changing perspective again, looking at the chaos that we see all around us. Is it's a reorganization, it's a regrouping, it's a new way of doing things, seeing who we are, joining with others. It's all new because the newness and the new order always comes out of chaos. There's no such thing as a new order that's being structured and built and planned, connected to the agenda. They want that to be there, but that's not the way the universe works. The universe works by the newness coming out of the chaos. And that's what we, all of us who are working for the changes, are going to make happen.
New earth, new body, new life, new beginning. It's
Yep.
all new. And to
Yes.
really move into that alignment with that, and like we said, it's not easy to be in the middle of the chaos. Or what was it? David Wilcox said it a long time ago. Like, I think I heard this like in 2008 or something like that, where I heard him say, you're going to have to, in the coming days, you're going to have to be able to walk through a riot and be peace.
And that's the order coming out of the chaos, because the chaos is going on, but you're recognizing it's a transcendent process and you're okay with that.
Any birth of a new era or a new way of being that's different than what we want to step away from will have struggle. It's like the birth of any being, whether it's a human or an animal. There is struggle, there is tension, there is a kind of adversity during that birth process. We will be going through that in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think, right now we're seeing the beginning. I think you mentioned Pluto leaving Capricorn fully all the way out by January of 2024. And now, right now, Pluto is in Aquarius, it's the we in Aquarius, and going into Aquarius for the next, I think, few months. Then it's going to go retrograde back into Capricorn and then fully out. So we're getting a little glimpse of what these next 3 months is going to be about and how important it is. That's why there is nothing more important right now, I feel, than to make your inner garden, your inner peace, your inner circle, make that so beautiful and so loving and so kind and so nurturing and so safe, so that when you are called to go out and be out in the world in whatever capacity, whatever happens or whatever, that you can be there and anchor that peace and be that kindness that we're talking about here, and be that anchor of your magnificence, of who it is that you truly are, that you can do that. It's challenging because of the more light that comes in on the planet, with all the CMEs, the solar flares, and everything that our physical body is taking in, making sure that you get plenty of rest, making sure that you get plenty of downtime so you can integrate it, making sure you go out in nature and do all the things. But at the same time, how do we, how strong do we have to be in the face of this evil? And that's why it's so important right now that we know who we are, and that you are strong, and that you are strong. But you can only do that not from being worn out and running around like crazy and projecting, the negativity out. You can only do that when you know who you are, right? So, would you like to say something about that? I see you have that smile, Colin, on your face.
Well, I'm waiting for Pia. Pia has something to say.
No, go ahead.
No? Go.
I don't have anything to say. I'm just listening and integrating.
Well, if I have the floor, I would simply say, in being as strong as we can be, we have to be our true, authentic selves.
Mhm.
And that simply means being honest with ourselves first. As we were talking about taking care of ourselves first so that we can help others in a stronger, better way. I think we have to be honest with ourselves in order to be strong enough to resist the attacks that are absolutely realistically being beamed towards people of light. There's no doubt. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not a "oh poor me" kind of conversation. The battle between dark and light is at its apex right now. The dark is trying its utmost, its best to pull out as many tricks out of their trick bag as they can to defeat the light. There's no challenge here. It is absolutely happening.
And that means that what the dark is doing is they're trying to do anything that will trigger you into moving into a lower frequency. Anything that will trigger you into moving into a lower frequency. That can mean a physical occurrence in your life that just happens. It can mean a pattern in a relationship. It can be anything that if the dark finds an opportunity to use that, they're going to put the energy towards you to try to bring your frequency down, which takes us back to your initial question of how strong do we have to be in the face of evil? Well, remember that the dark has just forgotten who they are, and that we're trying to bring the dark back into the light for harmony, and then be strong in who you are. And that's how strong we have to be. Transparent, as Cullen said, authentic, as Cullen said.
Yeah, I think we really have to assess, are we really walking our talk? Are we really living the spiritual attributes of what we talk about to others? Are we really truly working towards peace in an absolutely heartfelt manner? Are we really looking at ourselves and going back to what both of you have said today? Are we being honest about looking at our traumas, looking at our shadows, looking at all of the things that have happened to us? If we realistically, honestly do that, then that gives us the power to achieve the strength that we're talking about right now, to send as much high vibrational light, as much high vibrational love outward. And that is what will defeat the dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. It's just that simple equation.
Yeah, and that's why the spiritual hygiene, the spiritual daily practice, the daily, walk is so important, that you manage your energy field, that you manage your vibration, and that you ask those questions. What is it that you need right now personally? What do you need right now in order to make sure that your tank is full and that your field is clear and that you're ready to go out and shine that light the way that you really want to, the way that fills you up when you do? Because when we give in that way, we receive at the same time, because we're expressing true source energy, true source light when we're doing that, right? And it's like Pia said in her report, she talked about we're more powerful than we think we are. And that right now is the time, especially when those spiritual attacks happen, because the dark knows your weakness, where there is an in. So if it's on a health level, what Pia said, or whatever, wherever you're going to give your power away, wherever it's going to come in, it's going to come in. And that's why it's really, really important that you broker no interference, that you command your energy field, and that you communicate your boundaries clearly within your own space. I'm not saying to communicate it out to the world. I'm just saying within your own energy space, and that you're clear and that you've got this. And then when you go out, you walk with that field, and that's even more strengthening because people can
Absolutely.
feel
That you just absolutely use the words I was just going to use. People notice it. People absolutely notice if someone is shining that light out genuinely, truly, from the depth of their hearts. People in public actually can see it and feel it. It's palpable. It's amazing how easy it is. P and I play this little but we don't play it, we live it. When we go out in public, when we see someone in distress, and we can see that everywhere we go, every business we walk into, walking down the street, we can tell that people are in distress. We can feel it intuitively, empathically. All we have to do is, first of all, smile. Secondly, say something positive. We can walk up to someone and say, hello, how are you? What's going on in your life? And it will automatically broker a smile on someone's face immediately, because they're not used to people really reaching them like that, honestly. And then when they smile, one of us will say, you have a beautiful smile. And that will either cause tears on their part or even a bigger genuine smile.
Or sometimes we get a hug.
It's amazing, Kornelia, how simple, how absolutely rudimentary this is. If anybody tests this out in public, they will find exactly what we find. It works every single time.
And they wind up feeling better about whatever their distress was. And we wind up feeling better because we've given something of the higher vibration. So everyone benefits from that kind of exchange.
And then that person, during their day, will absolutely do something that reflects what we're talking about, what happened to them earlier in the day. We know it, we see it. And that's just a simple thing everybody can do every day. And it actually makes a tremendous difference in the way people feel, not only about themselves, but about the world. It really makes a difference.
when the dark tries to take you down, you get an attack or something happens where you're feeling attacked. People can feel that also. When the dark tries to take you down, when you can consciously know that that's what's happening, then you can work with that energy and clear that out, clear your field, and take command back over yourself so that you're not giving your power away. Because when we're talking about remembering who it is that you are, you're a magnificent, powerful co creator here to feel empowered and shine that beautiful light out that you are. That's the truth. So, but if you're feeling like a victim, if you're feeling those lower vibrational energies that Pia talked about, it's hard when you get attacked and when something's come into your field to really clear that out, right? Colin, you want to say something?
It's the programming. It's the programming that Colin referenced in the beginning of this, the bad training, because we are programmed to automatically look out of ourselves and say, who's at fault? Who made me feel this way? Who did this to me? That's our programming. And that's one of the main perspectives we have to change.
Yeah. Well, the thought I had immediately was, when we feel that the dark is trying to affect us, the faster we recognize that that's happening in a split second. If we're going along our daily business, whatever we're doing, and we get a thought that tells us, uh-oh, this doesn't feel right. This is depressing, or this is bothering me. We have to immediately stop what we're doing, thinking or doing by action, and immediately recognize this isn't coming from me. This is not generated by my own heart energy. the quicker we catch that influence, the faster we're going to get rid of it. And that's exactly when we should say, I'm sorry, this isn't true. This energy does not belong to me. Only love can exist here. Only love and light belong here. I am love and light. The faster we do that, the faster we dissolve that attempt of the dark to influence us. We have to catch it as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And that's why being conscious, being aware of your surroundings, being aware of how you're feeling, what you're thinking about, as Pia talked about in her report, it's our thought process, right? Which reminded me of, I think, therefore I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So what you're thinking about, and if you're thinking any lower vibrational thought forms, shift that perspective as fast as you can and come back to your true nature, which is abundant, kindness, love, compassion. I think, therefore I am. And focus on all the wonderful blessings that you are, that you give, that you are receiving, instead of what you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It makes
Wow.
a difference.
What
The
a
truth.
show.
This has been a wonderful conversation.
We have covered, I think, a lot of ground that's all interwoven and all linked together, all very important.
It is, many years ago, I still have this meme that I created. It's the globe. So it's the globe. And then there's a yellow sign across the globe that I put, and it says under construction.
That's great.
That's good, because we're always under construction, because everything inside us and around us is changing, and we can't rely on the old structures or the old model. You're absolutely right. That is a great analogy,
Yeah,
because
and people didn't get it, back then when I created it and put it out there on social media or whatever, people didn't get it. But basically, it's what's happening is, like you said, we're always under construction, but planet Earth, especially right now, is under construction. And so what we shared with you today is here to support you to navigate these times. Pia and Cullen, why don't you share with us, with our listeners, your website again, and where people can find you?
We have two websites. One of them, the major one that we work from, is larkma.com, spelled LAARKMAA.com. And you can find on there the article that we started talking about today, the contract article. You can find a reference on how to get the book, Remembering Who We Are, that you brought up. And you can find all the services that we offer there. The other website is my website, which is piaorleane.com. And there's a lot of information there on services that I provide and interweavings of what Cullen and I do together and what I do individually. So enjoy them.
There are a tremendous amount of pieces of information on both of these websites. Lots of archival information, current things we're doing, services, as Pia just said. Both of the websites are really quite fascinating and filled with amazing information.
You have no excuse, audience. There's no excuse. All the tools are there. We're not taking any excuses here. You can also go to my website, KorneliaStephanie.com. It's also pretty dense over there with a lot of information, a lot of tools, a lot of resources. And if you go to my YouTube channel, Kornelia Stephanie, you're going to see lots of different playlists there that can support you healing the inner child, or living heaven on earth, or what was I talking about earlier? Living beyond the core wounding. And so there's a lot of information that we've shared with you so that we can co-create together and build those communities that we were talking about earlier. So I want to ask you a question before we go. Of course, you don't have to answer this question if you are like me and don't want to answer it, which when I was asked the question, I didn't want to answer it. I said, I want to think about this for a while. And, this is the Libra part of me, the scale. It's like, oh gosh, I want to make sure I answered the right question. So the question is, and this is for you too, audience, so everybody gets to answer this question. If you could change one event in history, what would it be?
Mine's really simple.
Go for it.
We never should have invented the computer chip.
Which one? Any computer chip?
All of them. We went down the wrong technological road by inventing the computer chip, because the technology that has come through the computer chip, the original and ever coming new ones, has taken us away from our birthright of being part of nature and understanding that we are nature.
And I would have to agree with Cullen. My one thing that I would change is also stepping away from nature. And that encompasses the computer chip, which Cullen just mentioned. It encompasses throwing off our daily rhythms by the electric lights instead of having the circadian rhythms where we go to bed with the dark and get up with the sun. It includes being stuck inside of buildings instead of outside in the sunshine and the air. Anything that has taken us away from nature in any variety is the biggest mistake humanity has ever made, because we are part of nature.
It's pretty easy to see that I'm a neo-Luddite. We have truly given up our souls to technology, and this world would have been a better place if we had evolved without the kind of technology that we have unfortunately turned into a god.
Yeah.
My gosh, I love this question and I love your answer. It's given me a lot to think about, because I wouldn't have even, I didn't go there. Yeah, so this is definitely something I want to contemplate and think about. And I hope that you do too. We want to thank you so much for listening and tuning in. We're going to see you all again next month it's May. And so we'll see you then. Have a wonderful month, everyone. Spread your kindness and your love. Spread your true magnificence, the truth of who you are. And we'll see you again next time. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.